Hi, this is Dave here with Continental. I'm here with Casey Rohr. He's one of our maintenance mechanics here at the Sydney terminal. He's been here 3.5 years working on this stuff. What we're going to do is go over a few basic maintenance things that you can do out on the road to help yourself get out of a pinch. Mud flap bar. These babies don't stay on here all the time. They get knocked off, they get ripped, they get tore. We're going to show you a few things you can do to fix them, to adjust them, or to just get somewhere to get them replaced if need be. Casey, go ahead.
Okay, so when the mud flap is missing, typically what you can do is you should have a spare mud flap with you at all times underneath you in the bunk of your truck. You can take that mud flap, and if you can get a hold of a few zip ties, or if you have a few zip ties or some mechanics wire, you can just simply tie it up with a few zip ties to get you down the road, and that way it looks like you're legal.
Yeah, and basically what you're going to do, these mud flaps have holes in them where the bolts are. If you can't get these bolts off, you can still run the zip tie down through the binder and around through the holes and kind of makeshift hold it to there until you can get it somewhere to get it repaired completely.
If it's ripped off, typically it'll be loose. So
yeah.
you can just take your new one, loop it through the hole, loop it through your mud flap bar hole, and then just cinch it tight. And it's a simple zip tie. All you need to remember is that this pointy end goes through the flat end, not the raised end, and it clicks in. And as soon as you hear that click, you know you're good. It's not coming off, it's tight, and you can get as tight as you need it. If you even want to go a little further with that, if you carry just a small toolbox with you, a few wrenches, it's just a 1/2 inch size bolt. You need 4 of them. It's simple as that. Put a new one on.
Yeah. I've ran into them in the past where the bolts were rusted.
Yep.
You try to get them off and they break. So these are very good to keep in your truck for multiple purposes.
Some other things you might notice while you're doing your pre-trip after you just hooked up to this said trailer is that if you air it up and you notice that these lines are leaking, if you have a simple wrench or even a pair of pliers, these lines are very easily removable and will stop your leak. And you just let us know that it's leaking, we can get that trailer fixed. So another thing you can do with zip ties is you slide tandems. We all know how to slide tandems. Your lines stretch out over time and then they hang too low. And if they hang too low, that is a DOT violation. So one thing to prevent that is you can just take a simple zip tie and tie it up to the frame rail and let it hang there instead of hanging low to the ground so it scrapes out and takes out your airlines. All right, so some of the big things that I think need to be checked on a motor is, first and foremost, is your engine oil. And a way to properly check that is to have the engine off, and you need to at least wait about 5 minutes for all the oil in the top of the motor to drain into the bottom of the engine. That way you get an adequate reading on your dipstick. And it's super simple. Just pull the dipstick out, yellow handle. If you have a mid-roof truck, the dipstick's going to be down here. If you have a full sleeper, your dipstick's going to be down here in the center. And just pull it out, grab it at the very end. Make sure you wipe it off cleanly. Don't get any debris on it. Stick it back in. And then just pull it back out. Very good, Dave. You're full of oil.
All right, I'm full of something. Yeah, we're good deal. That looked nice.
And then another thing that I like to touch on is your coolant level. Coolant level should always stay full. It needs to, at least at the very minimum, be at your cold minimum. But if you're in the shop or you have coolant available, it needs to stay up at the fill line.
And as we all know with Continental, they keep in the side box 1 gallon of oil, 1 gallon of coolant, and 1 gallon of washer fluid. So if you ever get a little low, you should have some in your side box.
And if you run out of oil that you use in your side box, bring your jugs back in and we will refill them and put them in your side box. So another thing, a big overlooked thing that I see a lot with drivers is Gladhands lines and your electrical cord. These things over time will stretch out and they will rub on your deck plate. And when they rub on your deck plate, they're also rubbing on your Gladhands lines itself. That will rub a hole through, and you'll have an air leak and you won't be able to move. Or it could rub on your electrical cord and then your trailer lights aren't going to work properly. So a big thing you can do is just a simple couple zip ties, is you can just tie up a few of these Gladhand lines and it'll raise it off your deck plate. That way you can get to your next destination safely.
Okay, so you just grab like 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them, and
just 2 or 3, yeah, of those,
okay,
and just tie them up together.
Okay, just enough to just lift it up. All right, okay. Yeah. Another thing you can do with your Gladhands is something I've had to do many times, is as you're disconnecting and reconnecting the trailers, the rubber bushing in here gets worn out. There's one on the Gladhand, there's one on the Gladhand receptor. And what these do is when you put them in and lock them down, it keeps the air from leaking out so that it gets back to the trailer. But over time, as you can see, they get frayed, they get ripped, they get worn out, they flatten out, and they don't always work. And sometimes you'll put your Gladhand on and you'll hear it leaking and hissing. Or there's times where it's completely ripped and it needs to be replaced. So Casey's going to go through and show you how to replace one.
So it's real simple. Once you start to see it roll in like this right here, that's when you need to replace your Gladhand. You can try to pop it out, but it's just going to go right back to where it is. So this is a telltale sign that you need a new Gladhand rubber. So it's so easy. Just stick the end of the screwdriver in there, and just gently pry it out, and it pops right out. Then take the new one. There's a little lip right here, and you just push down at an angle, push it around, then come on the back with your thumb, and just gently pop it in. There you go. There you go, Dave.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, I'm Dave. This is Casey from the shop, and we just gave you a couple little things to go over to look at to help you out in a pinch on the side of the road, hopefully keep your wheels moving.